everybody, welcome back to Season 3 of Contenders China. I'm your host, Gio, and once again, I am joined on the desk today by my analysts, Volumel and Scribe. Today, for Game 2, we have got Alter Ego versus BTRG, who we formerly know as Moss 7 Club. Now, Scribe, BTRG have always been kind of known for their creative compositions, but they, like a lot of the teams this season, have had a lot of roster changes. So are we going to be seeing the same personality come out of this team as we have before?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think the big addition that they did make in terms of a well-known name would be Effort in the second DPS slot from HTP. So this is once again another HTP pickup by a team, and I think that they understand that HTP was such a good team and they're picking up the parts that do work. Effort has a pretty extensive champion pool. I'm glad he fits in. I think there is some overlap with Mask, which could potentially be problematic, especially if they don't want to run double hit scan. But I think the bigger reliance in this DPS is actually on the third option right here. 4E's hero pool is going to be so essential, just bringing more projectile threats in. We saw exactly how strong Doomfist was in the last game, so I would not be surprised if 4E has a great Doomfist to see him rolling out in the second DPS slot.
It's kind of a big question mark for me. You know, this whole season has a ton of rookie talent in 4E again. Lots of question marks around him. I wouldn't be shocked if I saw Mask or Effort kind of break out with some other picks that we haven't seen just yet, because they are very, very talented players. But I'm a little bit more worried about this team. You know, they've lost Vanessa. You know, it was Vanessa and his boys before. You know, it was this crazy flexible tank line, and you know it just feels a little bit. It feels absent. I don't know. I reminisce about them fondly, so I'm excited to see them play. I hope they come out with the same Hammond crazy strats, and but we'll see.
Do you think maybe we'll be looking a little bit more to what Riven can bring out on the tank line?
Most definitely. Again, we saw him quite the flexible player throughout his kind of Contenders tenure. Not as flexible, I would say, as somebody like Vanessa, who obviously is not with this team any longer, but still equally as flexible. They kind of I like to call them fluid tanks, where they could play the DPS if they needed to. They could play flex tank, they could play main tank, and they would kind of just rotate back and forth. If they're going to be this kind of fun, creative, crazy team that we remember them as, it's going to come down to Riven.
Pretty exciting. Well, BTRG, they finished at the top of Group B last season, but Group B, Group A, we discussed this in the last game, they kind of had a little bit of a discrepancy in how well they were, how the opinion of those groups were. So do you think the fact that they came top of the group will be a bit intimidating to this new team in Alter Ego, or do you think the fact that it was Group B will mean that it's less so?
It's hard to say, right? Because Group B last season, if we remember, was Team CC and LGD were both in that group, and they ended up 3-2. So I think it's definitely still a good indicator of how good Moss 7 Club was last season. They had a pretty rough initial first round against Flag Gaming, which is why they didn't end up advancing further. But Alter Ego is definitely going to be a super intimidating. This is an extremely strong team. They're one of the favorites in the group. If it's not LGD Gaming, it's going to be big time Regal Gaming. And I'm very excited to see what they're able to bring. They still have a pretty good core left over. Their support stay the same. They obviously, Riven has changed his name, but still the same tank line, and Mask always there, always present. So I hope that remaining synergy will be enough to help them bring over and take a win over Alter Ego. But I mean, these are brand new teams. We don't have that much information on them, but if it's any indicator from last match, they might be in for quite a bit of a romp.
Volumel?
Yeah, it's they played through open division. Alter Ego, this just one of these rookie talent teams coming into this season. Again, there's not too much to say about them. This is kind of our first glimpse of them. There are some kind of third-party tournaments happening in China at the moment, and sadly, Alter Ego isn't participating, but I'm excited to see them. They kind of have joined with Zenith Club Optimism, or like we like to fondly call them, Zoo. And Laboratory. There are these kind of new teams that we haven't seen a ton of, so I'm interested to see what they kind of bring. I'm kind of stoked to see what other kind of hidden gems China might have.
Well, from the first game that we had today, we saw a new team in Restart, and we made quite a few mistakes going against LGD. What would you like, ideally, Alter Ego to kind of take from the mistakes that Restart have already made today in their matchup against BTRG?
I think they need to be more confident in their game plan. I think that was the big thing for newer teams, especially, is that if you don't have as much practice or as much experience preparing for these big contenders matches, I think that's kind of where it starts collapsing. I think if Alter Ego sticks to the plan, they should be fine.
I just hope they play together. It's the one thing I think if you one track mind, think together, and I think they should be in a.
So nothing too complicated. Well, it's time for us to ourselves to our casters Bosco and Panda to take us through the first maps.
Thank you very much, Gio, Volumel, Scribe. Great desk as always as we get ready here for game number 2, big time Regal Gaming versus Alter Ego Panda. It's been a little bit since we've gotten on the Contenders desk, but here we are, Contenders China, Ilios, map number 1.
Ilios, map number 1, and one of the most fun aspects about starting off on Control, more than anything, Labasco. You all know at home as well, as we get to see how these two teams fare off each other. That first match was a good starting point to show us how this Winston Goats, more, I guess, infamously known as Dotes on the internet these days, has really come into its own here in this current meta and in this region too. I remember last season of Contenders China, this region in particular didn't want to play too much to the meta, but they are adapting very well so far.
Well, we're seeing a bit of a different look from both of these teams here too. BTRG coming out with that Hammond, like you said. They're also going with the Zen and the Lucio here. And we get McCree's on either side, looking at Rokuki here at the beginning, just sending some of those early shots out, looking for somebody. Now we go to Reborn, and then quickly switch over to King Kong, looking for somebody, of course, playing a character who is similar in that of King Kong. Has to quickly back out of the way here, looking for something with his flashbang, not finding anything. Was Rokuki gets taken out here, and BTRG starting to press forward with that Hammond, and they win this first fight and will get control of the points, and they go and take it.
It's a very oppressive composition that's coming out here from BTRG, right? So they are running a 3-3 composition, but they have the hamster instead of a Winston here. And what that necessarily does is they can pounce on top of Gudon's Discord orbs very quickly. That the speed boost now coming out of their Lucio player can more or less be a balance to how slow effort Zarya is, but how quickly he can get in and out of the team fights. Good Zarya bubble there, but King Kong is there on the follow-up, Riven out.
Starting off the right way for the side of Alter Ego to try and take this one back. King Kong getting low in this fight, able to keep himself up, though his supports able to keep him into this fight, looking for that next elimination. They do get the ult out here, though, for Reborn, as he's now just trying to get back onto this. 32% already built up here. King Kong able to jump on top of Goodan, though, so he's out of this fight. But Sound Barrier committed here for BTRG, and they're going to be able to hold on to this as they retreat here for Alter Ego.
Even when they lost to Brigitte, where you thought that you would be able to make a dent inside the armor of the 3-3 composition, they are still there. They still have 2 support ultimates, and they were able to use the Lucio Sound Barrier to sustain themselves on the point that much further. They were able to save the Transcendence, and now Riven is back. They're popping out the rally here, Labasco. So BTRG are setting themselves up wonderfully for this next team fight, but Alter Ego, they're going to have to find something with their own rally here soon, and King Kong has the Primal Rage available.
Committing onto the Zarya here at the start. They aren't able to take her down. Transcendence used to make sure that she stays alive in this fight. Rokuki on that. Brigitte just continuing to throw out the damage here. Effort, though, into the Graviton. Surge finds 2, and it's going to be a good cleanup from BTRG as they're going to win another fight here. They're up to 80%.
Jan 17 was 12% shy. It was at 88% that Transcendence would have been the ultimate that would have turned that fight back onto the face of BTRG. And now they're just pushing towards the spawn room because it's at 90% and they're popping ultimates into the spawn door of Alter Ego. Nobody can get back to the point in between those mines. Labasco is so dirty.
Huge use of the mines there by Reborn, charging through as well. 98, 99. Can anybody get a touch? King Kong, using the Primal Rage is able to get back, so they have an opportunity here. Riven has to use the Brigitte ult here to try and help the team have the opportunity to get back here, that still have somebody there in Liga able to get onto the point at the very least. And now they're taking out the last few targets left alive, and give a little bit of a wave to the camera as well. Just trying to get the Lucio gone, and they will finally take this. BTRG up 1-0 here on Ilios.
Liga effortlessly using the Diva's full kit to be everywhere at the same time, whether it's the jump shots, the defense matrix to keep the Zenyatta alive. It seems that we are noticing themselves of BTRG firing off on all cylinders against They're enemies of Alter Ego. We need to see something different coming out of Alter Ego into this next map, which could be devastating because it's going to be well. And you can already see on the side of BTRG, they're making the swaps. Effort's going to go over to that hit scan that we know and love and saw him on in previous matchups. And we're going to have an Orisa play here as well. Liga, probably smart not to swap over to the Roadhog here, as D.Va is very strong. The defense matrix is still a very good ability against many, many compositions. But Alter Ego, they're not going to go ahead and take any swaps here, Labasco. They're staying on that traditional Dotes with Jan 17 on that Zenyatta, looking for big Discord orbs and a lot of damage onto the front line of BTRG.
Well, I think Volamel will be happy at the very least, Panda, that you're seeing creativity from BTRG. Moss 7 Club is not dead.
God, that is just one of the most beautiful things you could possibly say. I am so happy to see their flexibility coming through here time and time again. You can see just their sheer presence, Labasco, just shoving Alter Ego off the point. They don't know how to attack this. What do you even dive? They're looking in here past the Orisa shield, but they're met by so much CC in the flashbangs.
Stuck right now is King Kong, able to get away from the fight here at the very least. Now he gets stunned out and he gets quickly taken down by Reborn. Pulls one in as well, falls, but it doesn't matter. The work has been done. His team actually doesn't take control at this point, but they just have to get these last few characters out and they will get control.
Yeah, and this is one of the fights that BTRG are just happy to let Alter Ego take control of the point for sure, because now this is the deficit of leaving an Orisa on the point. So close to a supercharger, you can actually combo along with that on to the Deadeye ultimate. You don't see it every day, but it's very powerful indeed. But how do you debunk the bunker composition in between the armor that Riven is bringing to the table on the Brigitte, and especially behind the shield of Reborn? It's going to be difficult to find their way into a dive for effort, and with the Deadeye available again, that's a lot of damage coming the way of Alter Ego.
Rotating around again is this team of BTRG. They use the Deadeye here from effort, doesn't find anything, but still forces back Alter Ego. They've got to find a target to dive on. They're having so much trouble, like you were saying, Panda, looking like they're going to try it in. Now on a King Kong already halfway down by the time he even gets down. Finally puts his bubble down, has his primal rage here, but he's losing teammates while that's happening, so it doesn't even matter. King Kong finally going to pop the primal, but oh my God, Feng Mian is just killing everybody, sending them into the well. It doesn't matter, and they're up to 50%.
You've never seen 1,000 HP go away so much faster until you just watch that primal rage just disappear from King Kong. He was holding on to it for such a long time, building up to it, in fact, for such a long time, that it's almost a little bit of a misplay coming out from Baby. These bubbles are coming out a little bit too early. King Kong needs a little bit more protection inside these dives, whether it's a miscommunication from the dive of the D.Va from Alter Ego. They're not pouncing on the Discord orb targets as much as BTRG is, and look at effort onto this next fight here. Labasco already has another Deadeye available, and this whole side of BTRG, look at that health for Gudon. They still have armor.
Who says they can't be mobile, too? They continue to just move around with the Lucio speed. They do lose Riven at the start, but effort able to get the Brigitte out on the other side. So both Brigittes gone from the fight can make things be a little bit even here, but it's finally starting to turn for the side of Alter Ego. Why is that happening? Because of KZ, as they are able to take out so many here, as they will get control of this point. Just have to find the Lucio still speed boosting route, but it's up to 99%.
Me and an analyst that is here today with you, Scribe. We were sitting here joking before the show actually began how much damage a D.Va actually does. You can't let that go unhinged, and that is just so much damage for the micro missiles and the from cleaning up on the Discord orbits from Jan 17. That Kazi is able to build 33% of that self-destruct, and you're gonna need a little bit more. The King Kong self-destruct needs to stay alive for a little bit longer, but effort with that fan the hammer onto the cookie, that is so devastating.
And Transcendence too little too late here, and fighting another one is Feng Mian, sending more people into the well. Just continuing to get these boots will help make this so much easier for the team. They get the D.Va Mac gone and out. They're going to flip this here now, use the rally too, just to make sure that everybody stays alive. You will have the Lucio try and stall, but that doesn't last very long. They're starting to come back in here, Primal Rage, to keep the stall going for as long as possible, but you see that kill feed kept going for big time Regal Gaming, and they also have the Deadeye here in case anybody does try to get back on. They do just get that stall back in here really quickly, but you can see it doesn't matter, Panda. Big time Regal Gaming wins map number 1 here over Alter Ego of Ilios.
Very dominant fashion, might I add. BTRG have been looking very fantastic thus far in this competition, Labasco, and I got to give my hat's off to the way that Reborn was playing. I mean, it takes a lot of moxie to actually walk back onto the point of well with an Orisa when that shield can just get bursted down so quickly that you can just reset up your bunker with Riven on the Brigitte was really enabling the tanks of BTRG to do what they needed to do to create space for effort to effortlessly find those shots on the McCree, building Deadeye time and time again. You know, you don't always have to get those fantastic kills with Deadeye, but you can most certainly continue to flashbang the Winston as he is diving in. King Kong did not get a chance to play the game, and you can just tell that Alter Ego, they're searching deep for another ego. You can only assume as they're going into map number 2. Maybe when you add an objective, things might change.
It's always a possibility. One of the things I wanted to ask you, Panda, when I was looking at this team, I mean, we did see one standout come out there for Alter Ego and Kazi. Do they have to try enabling their diva a little bit more? Is that something that could maybe help them get back into this in the second map?
It's certainly possible. We've seen a lot of different combinations coming out for divas, specifically on their self-destructs, Labasco. Take yourself all the way back to Overwatch World Cup qualifiers with Canada, with the EMP coming out onto a self-destruct can be very devastating if it's timed properly. Haven't seen too much Sombra here today or in this region, but I have seen a lot of dotes, and that does mean that Brigitte is into play as well. So if you can land that shield bash onto the enemy tank that is providing that big shield, and you can catch a lot of enemy team or a lot of team members out from your adversaries, certainly you can enable that diva that much further. But I think that divas in this current stage of Overwatch, they're already a little overrun here, my friend. They already have the defense matrix, the back line, clean up after their main tanks, and to be everywhere to mitigate as much damage as possible. It's very hard to enable a diva that much further, but I think we need to look at their Zarya player, and that's the player that you need to be wanting to get all the damage out, because that's your tank buster, if you will, into these compositions. You can get up to so much charge that you could just bust down any tank that walks in front of you and build a graviton surge. We saw time and time again in the previous match how quickly you're able to win a team fight if that's possible.
And hopefully they can maybe make King Kong have the ability to play the game with that Zarya player, if that's something that they can try and do for Alter Ego. We're going to take a quick timeout. When we come back, we will have map number 2 here for you, here for Broadcast.gg. here on Broadcast.gg. Labasco and Panda here with you as it is currently 1-0 in favor of Big Time Regal Gaming over Alter Ego. Going to be heading into map number 2 here in just a moment. But Panda, while we have a little bit of time here, let's talk about this side of Big Time Regal Gaming. We've seen something a little bit different that maybe we weren't expecting. Riven has been playing the Brigitte, who has been listed as a tank player, was a tank player for Moss 7 Club last season. So it's one of the changes that we saw, and it was paying dividends there, at least in map number 1.
Definitely was. I mean, sure, the tank listed player of Riven was playing Brigitte in the quote unquote DPS spot, who is technically a support, by the way, but it could also feature as a tank in that Orisa composition. Does create a lot of space by brute force of a shield bash, and that whip shot combo can be very devastating for any flanker to try to find their way in. But what I'm more interested in for the entire roster of BTRG, if they don't make any swaps, will they continue to have Riven play the Brigitte, and how much longer will the 3 support compositions work out in their favor? I mean, BTRG, again, not to beat a dead horse here, but they are the backbone of Moss 7 Club, one of this region's most infamous teams for their flexibility and crazy compositions at a moment's notice. So anything's kind of possible coming out from these individuals. But I like that flexibility that came out from Effort onto that McCree. And I want to see if Riven has anything else left up his sleeve underneath that the Brigitte armor that he was showing us so far.
And just a reminder for those of you who might not know who Riven was last season, there was a name change. That's part of why you're seeing a different name. It was Yishen, who was one of the main tanks for Moss 7 Club. So that maybe is where some of the confusion may come in for some of those. Obviously, the support duo in Feng Mia and Gudan has been just as stellar as they were last year, though, Panda. They've continued here forward. But one of the other things that we didn't mention yet, the one person that we thought we would see maybe quite a bit of, we haven't seen Mask yet, as we're going to be going to Numbani next. Maybe this is where we see him.
It's very possible. But to branch off of your previous statement as well, I'm really excited to see Gudan firing off on all cylinders on that Zenyatta, not skipping a beat since the last season of Contenders. Proper Discord orb targets are a tank's best friend, so that way they can win that. I guess you could call it a 1v1, sure, but it's more or less to gain that certain edge over in a team fight when you have that enemy Reinhardt discorded, and whether it's a Orisa or a Winston, whether you have dive or death ball, it just gives your tanks that edge, which just enable your DPS so wonderfully. And I gotta say, that is what Gudan is definitely doing a little bit better here than Jan 17. Could be by way of space that the tanks are actually being given for each one of these teams. But we were speaking about it in between the maps here, Labasco, as we load into Numbani for you folks, that we think that the Zarya player for the side of Alter Ego was a little bit mistimed with those bubbles, missing out on some energy. That damage would actually enable the rest of Alter Ego to actually flip BTRG on their backs, and they might actually walk away with a few more team fights than you last saw.
Big Time Regal Gaming here, by the way. They're going to be on defense first here. They're going with the soldier for effort here, and it looks like we're having Riven play the Brigitte again, so not much of a change here. We don't see Mask yet either.
Not without any swaps either. Riven, like I was projecting, is going to stay on this Brigitte. Reborn opting in for this Orisa on this defense is very interesting, but not as interesting as the soloish support here from Gudan. But we have a Torbjorn in play. He has to throw on, get some armor there. He's going to sustain himself with that E, but it's all right. There's still a turret at play, Labasco, and that's what matters most.
He's still alive, too. So, you can't put Feng Mian out of this one yet. So, regardless, innovation is never gone from the side of BTRG, that's for sure. Now deciding what they're going to do, Alter Ego, they're going to dive onto where that is. The stun comes out, pushes the Diva right back away, though, so King Kong back onto the point here, just dealing as much damage as possible from the high ground right now. is the Orisa. Baby Moo, though, able to get Riven, so you have a little bit of that CC gone here, having to get onto the point is Feng Mian, just trying to find somebody with those right clicks, but out comes the ult instead, as the sound barrier will keep everybody alive here. Jan 17 just dealing out volleys as well, but Feng Mian's turret still doing work, even though he ended up falling here. So they're going to use the visor. They're going to try and commit back onto this point, and they might be able to clear this one off here too. The visor doing a lot of damage from effort, and that's forcing them back, so they get 2 ticks for Alter Ego, but they can't complete it.
Sure, you can go ahead and say that was absolutely a tactical visor coming out from effort, but Gudon landed the most nasty sleep onto the Diva you could ever ask for BTRG. And when Feng Mian ended up falling, unfortunately, the turret was still there. So it was like he was still playing the entire game the entire time, but he was just in a respawn. When that turret is still hidden behind the shield, it's still so much damage that is going into the side of Alter Ego. And when that sleep came through from Gudon and the tactical visor came out, Diva, Kazi just had to watch it all happen. Very unfortunate stuff.
They come in using their ultimate here. Oh, just getting on is Reborn just in time before that went through. So now on there with the Orisa, just still dealing damage on effort, able to find one with the Helix Rocket, looking for the Primal Raging Winston, can't find it here, but it's okay. Oh no, they got off the point, so it does matter. So they're not going to be able to hold on, as they will be able to start this cart rolling here, but you had the fight lost here actually though for Alter Ego. Panda, I think you got muted there.
I did, unfortunately. I got a bit of that mute bug. You know, I'd say it's quite heinous this time of year. You got to watch out for that, folks. But Effort was setting up for that tactical visor. I think the entire side of BTRG got a little bit of miscommunicated inside their comms. Very unfortunate stuff that they have to take these swaps. They're still on the Torbjorn for the second point. Very hard to implement that as the snowball's coming through for Alter Ego, and Cookie's about to have that rally. So it's going to be very difficult indeed for BTRG to stop this payload in its tracks.
Yeah, they really didn't get to make any switches because they sort of won the fight. It actually ended up not working for them, and you're seeing them just get chased down here as they kind of get stuck out on this comp that they maybe not necessarily wanted for the Streets phase, but for Alter Ego, they're just going to continue to take advantage of it as they keep moving this cart along. They're already almost to that checkpoint to work onto that second one.
Yeah, and they have a few more ultimates to work with it too. You know that a few more team fights can swing in your favor as a team when you have both your support ultimates available. Transcendence and Sound Barrier at play for Alter Ego, but they can't stop Cookie on this Brigitte. Reborn is getting caught out every single time.
Liga getting caught out, like you said, just kind of making the rest of the team fall behind it as well, Panda. So now they're in this tough spot. Do they make changes here? Do they just kind of ride out what they've got?
A few swaps here and there. I mean, Feng Mian gonna stay on this Brigitte, and their Gudon is about to have this nano boost available for BTRG. Throw that onto a Winston. There's a lot more damage that can come through. But the real story here is Baby Moo. He has that Graviton. He's marching forward. He throws it down. Not yet.
Looking for his opportunity to do so. Hasn't yet. King Kong flanking as well, and it's working. Baby Moo, so much damage, so high charge, continuing to find targets to take out. Now, like you said, he got eaten there for his ult, but it doesn't matter because the self-destruct is going to do what's needed. Rogue Cookie just pushing that diva back in, able to stay alive at the very least is Liga, but at this point, they're in last fight territory here before Alter Ego takes this, and they've got the ultimates to try and take this. Primal Rage trying to keep everybody in. Doesn't matter that he gets slept because they take out Reborn on the other side. Graviton Surge onto the cart to try and swing this back. Self-destruct does get the Lucio at the very least, but this is still a losing fight for the side of BTGR is the only problem. Diva, the only one left alive, quickly getting pushed out of mech here. And now you have the Winston coming back in with the nano boost here, uses the Primal Rage Desperation to try and stay in this one. It will stall out long enough for the respawns to come back, and Alter Ego will have to go back towards spawn and regroup.
Under a meter left? What the heck? That was crazy. BTRG absolutely saving their skin here on Numbani Labasco just when you thought that they were about to get snowballed all the way into that third capture point. Alter Ego, however, they have 2 minutes and 30 seconds to walk back in here, and they're about to have a Graviton Surge. They're going to have a rack full of ultimates, so they just speed right into the enemy team.
They used the Graviton. I didn't see if it got eaten again or not. I think it might have. Regardless, they're going to use their their rally as well here. King Kong able to get effort at the start here at the very least. Now finds another with the help of his team. Looking for the Brigitte. Now gets pushed up high into the air, quickly eliminated, and they get that card to go all the way. Lose a little bit of time there, but it's still going to be a good time bank for the side of Alter Ego.
Yeah, I mean, they stumbled, but this is an entirely different team than we previously saw in our control map, Lobosco, and that's what I wanted to see. When that objective is in play, how much more can you push BTRG against the wall? And we got to see it. Baby Moo came to life. He landed a good graviton surge there at the end. I'm pretty sure it came out that time. It might have gotten eaten. I might have heard the voice line wrong, but at the end of the day, they still had the damage, and they were able to walk away with 2 minutes. And any time on a hybrid map, Lobosco is a good place to be on Numbani. BTRG, however, they were stumbling along the way. Riven was doing a good job of catching out the dives coming through the dive tanks of Alter Ego this time around, but wasn't able to sustain his own life. There just wasn't enough healing to come through. And Feng Mian, when he swapped over to the Brigitte himself, just left BTRG on this proverbial stumble all throughout the defense. And Alter Ego were just punishing them for their lack of ult charge, never really gaining any footing. Gudon was never fully protected from the ult economy being absolutely pummeled by Alter Ego. And as they're setting up for their defense, they swap over to a more tactical, maniacal composition. You just saw it in the previous match, and it's just as scary on the team that can land anything with their cooldowns. Baby Moo on to this Doomfist, Kazi sticking onto the Diva, but the real story is going to be Cookie. Onto the Sombra, hacks are devastating. Take away any ability from a tank, they are just a flying wet noodle there, and a rack full of ult charge onto the enemy team.
On the other side for big time Regal Gaming, you've got the Genji. That will be a little bit of a different look here for them, as you're seeing Cookie getting all the scouting out that they need. They know what comp they're going to be seeing here and where they're going. So now Baby Moo can hide here, try to find an opportunity to get a right click onto somebody, quickly diving in with his tank. Now they've got somebody in that room, and it's Gudon who quickly falls down, as this should be a good fight for the side of Alter Ego. You have to go back to the drawing board here, more than likely for the side of BTRG, as they are just quickly getting chased down and eliminated. And of course, alt advantage already to Alter Ego.
Up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane. No, it's just a really angry scientist named King Kong. And my God, he just come in there and absolutely dissipate the entire backline of BTRG. And now they find themselves a little shy in ult charge, especially in the tank department. King Kong is just about to be 30% shy to that Primal Rage. And that is definitely team fight winning on a first point hold of Numbani, Lobosco. But Riven really getting close to this Dragon Blade could be a different story to tell for BTRG.
And he's able to get the Doomfist at the start of this fight, so that's a great start for them as well. Has his blade, pulls it here, looks for the Hannah, quickly slices into him, slices the Diva up as well, chooses that shift to try and get towards the next character who went too far away. Doesn't matter though, he gets a lot done with the blade. King Kong though, Primal Rage, trying to keep this going for Alter Ego. High into the air, has to deal though with the Genji who just came back, punches him in the face and does so, and his team starting to switch this one back around, chasing this Diva as well. If they get this Diva out of mech, that could be huge for them. It looks like they're not quite going to be able to do that, but they don't get themselves caught out either, so that's the good thing for them.
Smart choice for King Kong to go all the way back. You don't want to give all that much more ult charge over to BTRG as they're setting up their next play. They did throw the Dragon Blade out, and they were just a bump shy of a Nano Blade on top of it. The Nano Blade comes through, and the EMP sure to follow after effort.
Dive working here at the very start. They had the EMP available too for the side of Alter Ego, but Cookie never used it, so gonna have to hold on to it here. So they will take this point. Did take them some time. Just under 2 minutes is where we're at right now.
Gonna try to recontest here. Yeah, Cookie comes back in with the EMP and finds 3 with it, but the point still goes over to BTRG. Very unfortunate for Alter Ego to throw that very good ultimate out of the waist for a nice hold and an even better sleep dart from Gudon. To no avail, however, because Alter Ego, they're still cleaning up the point. Now the shoe's on the other foot here for BTRG as they go for a respawn. Moment's notice, Riven is about to have another Dragon Blade going into this next fight here underneath the Valkyrie from Feng Mian. This is a few metas deep here, Lobosco. I haven't seen this in quite some time, but it's still devastating damage boosting a Genji through his entire blade.
Of course, just Nano Boost is so good on the Genji with that combo. It's amazing how much damage it can do. And of course, you have effort building up to the EMP as well. EMP Blade is also the combo you could decide to use if you really want to. Effort throwing down that translocator, but the only problem is that falling in the meantime is Liga. So they're without their main tank here, but out comes the Blade anyways. They're committing to this fight as Cookie gets taken down. I don't know if he got his ult. He was so close to getting it. So that a huge loss here. That's going to allow them to continue to push this card.
Yeah, Cookie went down very, very quickly. A dash, a slash, a reset away. Riven using that Dragon Blade underneath the Valkyrie with efforts EMP, but King Kong's coming back in. He gets hacked in this Primal Rage, but they can't get him off this point quite yet.
He's got slept right on top of the cart, so they can't actually get that point here just yet. They're going to have to fight for it. EMP coming out from Cookie this time, but I don't know if it caught enough people for it to matter. Self-destruct, though, does manage to take out two, so that's at least something to help out here. Primal Rage, though, after the EMP finally ends. Baby Moo, though, dropping down on top from the sky might be enough to help switch this back around for Alter Ego, as it looks like they will be able to recontest and resettle this in the worst possible spot for BTRG.
And that is emphatic if I've ever seen a hold here so far, Labasco. That is quite the bump into your attack if the payload stops right here. The spawn room advantage is 100% in the favor of the defense now. BTRG, they really find themselves on the opposite end of the foot. The effort needs to get this EMP, so that way these swaps from BTRG, being Brigitte, the Lucio, and the Zenyatta, the Dotes format with Sombra, if you will, makes a firm impact onto this match.
Hack trying to come out here from effort, can't get it to complete though, and that allows for Baby Moo to go charging in. His team finds that first elimination as well, so the early advantage. Effort looking for somewhere with the EMP. His team switching this back around, EMP helping him out as well. King Kong didn't get hit by it, and that might be something that helps them out, because now they have Primal that they can go throwing in here, as Alter Ego is trying to come back into this one, and they're winning this fight on the back end, and they're forcing back BTRG once again. Minute 18 left to go, and they've been so close to just pushing this cart that last little bit.
Oh, don't even lie, King Kong. You used that Primal Rage to flex on that poor little Zenyatta. He was so helpless. Gudon actually ended up charging enough damage on to King Kong's face to force out that Primal Rage. He will have a Transcendence walking into his next fight. Effort swapping over to the Zarya here with a minute left. Labasco could be difficult. They might be relying on just good dives in general to get them that Graviton Surge, but that Cookie with the EMP finds 4.
Might be too little too late, like you said, because it's at that minute mark and not the 2-minute mark. King Kong with that initial pick, now getting himself the Nano Boost, can go back into this, but the only problem is Effort and Reborn find the Ana and the Doomfist. So those are two huge targets taken out here. Reborn continuing forward, uses his Primal Rage so nicely to get Cookie, and now finds himself his counterpart and sends quickly away the Diva. And now back onto the Winston, who is going to fall here. They will finally take this one. It took them a long time, though. They're going to have a smaller bank regardless.
Yeah, smaller time bank, but they're still going to have to force their way into this victory. Doomfist, Meteor Strike, all the way back to the point, because now Alter Ego, they're saying anything you can do, we can do better. And what the difference is going to be a Reinhardt here, Labasco, but this is the difference that we're talking about before that fight. Effort had enough time and enough patience to charge up this energy you see on your screen. He's about to have a Graviton Surge.
That might be the difference maker in this fight that can get them to complete this, at least with some time on the clock. But Jan 17 gets the Brigitte took on, and now you have the sound barrier, so they can get even more aggressive. Charge in onto Effort. He uses it in desperation here and is able to get Cookie, able to get with the remake to his Liga. So they're getting back in this one. Liga with that, incredible. And they're just fighting through this and winning the battle, and they'll get this cart going again.
Sheer grit and sheer force, but this is the fight that Alter Ego wanted to take. They got a few ultimates out of BTRG. More importantly, they got the Graviton out, Labasco. That is so important, because now Alter Ego, with this composition that they swapped onto, they're going to be able to build ultimates in the form of a defensive steamroll. If they can just get onto the point here, they do have Kazi's self-destruct to find maybe 1, if not 2 again.
They do have the rally come out here, and they find Jan 17 right at the beginning again. Zen being gone. Huge for the side here. BTRG, a little bit late. They do lose Reborn, and they do lose the Diva mech Effort, though, still high charge here. King Kong coming in, had a couple that he got with his. Oh, and he finds a Lucio as well on the charge. His team turning this around with 18 seconds left to go. Only thing is, his effort's not done in this fight. He wasn't taken out yet. Has the Graviton. Is it enough here? He still has his Diva and his Brig. Primal Rage trying to push away these last few characters. They're so close. Almost into the overtime here. Self-destruct onto the cart. Tries to force everyone away. There are going to be an overtime if they do eventually get this one. And they do, finally. I believe they're still going to get a little bit of time here, Panda, but not as much time as they could have had if they were able to win that a little cleaner. Oh no, they actually don't, because it's over too.
They don't get any time. They don't
That's
get
right.
any time because it's hybrid,
right.
my man. So now you see they're gonna play for the draw. So it's gonna be the side of Alter Ego. They have the chance to take one tick off of BTRG to win out Numbani, and this is the team again. Like I said, in between the side swap Labasco, this is the team I wanted to see on control. The team that plays around the objective, enabling the rest of their enemies. And I gotta say, Alter Ego, though they gave BTRG all 3 of those capture points, they didn't give them it so easily. Man, oh man, were they given a run for their money, whether it was the Sombra EMPs or the team flexibility. Alter Ego were able to flip around team fights in a snap of a finger. And my God, BTRG, they're getting a run for their money again, Labasco. So it's more swaps for their defense. They're going to swap over to a little bit more of a composition that we saw work out for them all the way back. Wheel on well, Ilios. It was insanity. Enable effort on this pro hit scam player that he is, and only good things might come.
Riven too playing the Sombra, so I think we're gonna have to switch what we have on our on all our notes. That Riven isn't a tank player anymore. Riven is now their DPS player. So scouting here initially, they're quickly making switches. They're going with the Hanzo here along with the Pharah. They think that this is the better thing, but they're going into some hit scan. Here's the only thing for Alter Ego.
Going into 2 hit scans, more or less. Gudon with that sniper rifle, you zoom in on the Ana. Don't forget, it is technically a hit scan. That's a lot of pressure on the white Alter Ego. You will concussion blast away. Maybe a swap might come through. And this is the one thing that I like to see out of teams on attack here. You do have the time, but you only have a few team fights to either give the enemy team a lot of ultimate charge, or you can take the proper swaps to guarantee yourself that first tick victory. And so they swap over to this Dotes format, 3 tanks, 3 supports Labasco to guarantee this first team fight victory. It's a lot of ifs on these bubbles from Baby Moo, but he's been looking good on Numbani so far. So I expect good things to come out of Alter Ego on this attack.
Coming through onto the low ground here, have to force everybody onto the point is what they're trying to do. They lose their baby diva, or their diva mech at the start of this fight is the only problem. Dropping in on a couple more is Reborn, and they're going to win this fight. And now they're just going to stagger out for as long as they can. So they're already under a minute. That's the only problem. You take too long to decide what you're going to do, and now you're so far behind. And guess what's coming up for Riven?
An EMP, of course, and the nano boost over to Gudon, that is devastating, Labasco. When you give so much time over to the swaps, that's all the time that BTRG haven't been swapping. They've just been giving you chip damage, so that is absolutely going to be ult charge heavily in the favor of BTRG. They have everything in the book to be played with mid-fight here, Labasco. Mid-fight, more like last fight. 30 seconds left. Either it's going to be a draw or a win for Alter Ego.
Massive EMP and 3 already down in the blink of an eye, and make that 4 effort, finishing that one off with the left click. And that's quickly causing everybody by Alter Ego to get back off. 14 seconds left. They might not even have enough time, even with the reset.
Baby Moo gonna swap over to the Tracer here just to try to blink his way, blink his heart out, if you will, just try to make it back to this point here in time. 3 seconds left, Labasco. Nobody can make it back to the point in time. It will be a draw on Numbani.
Wow. What a second map that we have here that we just saw. We end up going to a draw here. So you have it right now, Panda, where it's up 1-0 for big time Regal Gaming. They at least did what they needed to at the end there to make this a little bit of an easier second half for them, even though they couldn't get the win on the map.
Absolutely right, Labasco. There's only going to be more objectives in play. There's going to be more payloads in play. A lot more fun to instilled here, Labasco, on Contenders Season 3, and I can only hope that BTRG continue to get pushed against the wall here, because I want to see more out of Alter Ego. I want to see how much more they can enable all of their DPS and really take BTRG to their limits.
And I really want to... Well, we've got a little bit more time here, Panda. So when you look at it for the side of Alter Ego, you at least get the draw, but the way that finished, how do you make sure that you don't let that one really get to you too much?
I don't think that this is a team that stumbles when it comes to momentum. I mean, they got 2-0 on Ilios, but they still really gave it to BTRG on Numbani. So I don't think momentum's not necessarily their problem. I still think it was their original problem altogether, and it's just follow-up. They are there. They are getting the initial damage off, but they're not cleaning up their plates, Labasco. It just seems that Contenders China just doesn't like their vegetables. They're not finishing their dinner all the way. They need to finish their food.
They spent a lot of time switching there as well. It seemed like the first comp that they went with might have been the best one, but to break down those comps even more, we've got some really intelligent people, and of course leading the way is the one and only Geo. So go ahead, take it away, Geo, Volumel, and Scribe.
All right, well, I'm not sure the start of this series so far quite what we were expecting. So firstly, I want to talk about Alter Ego, this brand new team. How would you guys rate their team play so far?
I'll give this one to Scribe because he's just all about them right now.
I love it. It's just because like from looking at game one with restart, you see a lot of disconnect in terms of sending in Winston solo, not being able to stage properly. But I mean that was the big change from AE, at least from my opinion, was they got rolled on the first. They got rolled on the first map, but the big thing was when they came back on Numbani, perfectly great staging on the first part. They understand what they need to play. They understand how to play great defense, which I think is also a huge attribute, as well as a lot of teams can get snowbally and start using their ultimates to push cards on offense. It's all about that defensive holding down, making sure that BTRG, as strong as they are, they were not allowed to get a lot of room. I'm glad they were able to hold, and very good discipline on third point. It's not a lot of teams that go, yeah, you know what, let's play for overtime. Let's give ourselves one more chance, but take that last opportunity away from them.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we spoke about is how Numbani is notoriously tough to complete. That third point can be really quite difficult. I mean, how did they manage to do it against this more experienced team?
They seem to just kind of come out and adapt a little bit stronger. That's kind of been the big theme that I've been really enjoying from Alter Ego. They are very cautious. To be fair, I think it was more of a snowball into the third point. I think BTRG got a little bit ahead of themselves. Second point can be kind of a building phase for the attacking team, so I think they really rolled into that third point and just kind of like out economied them. In which gotta kind of wag my finger at BTRG. You just don't get to jump in with Winston in this meta for free and expect to get out alive. So it's been very interesting to see a rookie team come in AE and have really strong dives, have great adaptability. At times it can be maybe a little bit too much. They're trying to outthinking themselves in a sense, but so far so good. I'm really excited to see after the half what else we've got in store.
I'm enjoying the shake-up so far, definitely. I think it's great to see a new team kind of buzz things up a little bit, but we can't deny that BTRG are still one map ahead. They did take Ilios, and one of the reasons for that we were noting was how valuable effort on these various DPS characters they were out on was to this team. I mean, what would you say were the biggest assets that he was providing to the team with Kree and even on Numbani when he was playing Soldier?
Good resource management, good movement, good positioning. I think that's all the great qualities of a good DPS player, but I think effort especially has been showing that a lot more. This is, I think, the first time I've ever seen BTRG, especially looking at like Moss 7 Club last season. This is the first time I've really seen them depend on a single DPS player. I mean, we talk about the other strong players on the roster right before Mask, Jinmu, and even 4E, but they've been choosing to specifically only go with effort. And that means that effort has a lot of, they're relying on him basically to stay alive in fights, right? And we saw a lot of the great, usage of abilities, right? Him holding flashbang for later in the fight, right? Like good target selection. That was something we were giving him great accolades for. He knew exactly that he didn't have to be the one focusing Winston. He had to be focusing the Brig. He was focusing on the D.Va in the backline. The fact he was able to make those adjustments, and Numbani, his rotations on Soldier, finding great avenues to get an amazing tactical visor off, just finding different angles to approach from, even getting way behind his Zenyatta in the backline. That's stuff that it seems like pretty easy when he's in such a great position. It's like, oh, how did Zenyatta get that out of position? It's because he's constantly looking for those paths in, and I'm very happy he's playing as mobile as he is now.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. It is very fun to see a lot of these rotations. It's something that I've seen quite a bit from BTRG, specifically on Numbani, when we kind of look back at some of their other tournaments that are kind of going on at the moment. That was kind of my standout from their Numbani A defense, is this really fun kind of crossfire, trying to, you know, adapt to the Torb. They're trying to make it work as best as they can. And the way that they can make it work, like Scribe said, is you're using effort on Soldier. You know, the reason why you use Soldier there instead of like Ashe or McCree, you know, granted, you know, some of these other tournaments are still on 1.3, so you can get the Ashe play in there. But you use Soldier because he can kind of be self-sustainable with his biotic field, and he rotates so well. So you're setting up this giant kind of crossfire. You're encompassing people, and you get this massive amount of damage. You can't cover all those angles at once.
Okay, I've got to ask you very briefly, which player has been impressing you two the most?
I like effort. I'm going to take the easy answer. Easy way out of this. It's because I want to give more room for alter egos as pick player later in the series, possibly. But yeah, effort. I mean, this is someone who's a new player added into the roster. He's, you know, he has a lot of burden on him. He's playing that solo DPS role. He's being the Zarya, and that's kind of like what we saw with BTRG was struggling, right? When Zarya wasn't high energy, when they were constantly losing these fights, they weren't able to sustain, push themselves through third point. So it actually came last point effort, getting these great picks, staying alive, right? Dropping down to almost 15 health, staying alive and making sure that he's able to push forward. I really like him here.
It's a tough choice for me. It's either between Feng Mian or King Kong, kind of living up to his moniker, you know, quite a potential, you know, tank player we could be looking for in the future. But I would say those two are my top.
The hint was in the name, I think, with King Kong. But, I mean, we will see if they continue to impress going into our third and fourth maps, first of which will be the Assault map. So, for now, we will be throwing it back to our casters, Lebosco and Panda, to take it away.
Thank you very much, Gio. As we are getting ready here for map number 3, it is currently 1-0 in favor of Big Time Regal Gaming after there was a tie on map number 2. Panda, you know, some really good stuff there from the desk. And I want to kind of expand on something they were talking about. They were talking about players that were the most standout. And I want to get your opinion on that. Who do you think has been the most standout? Do you agree maybe with Volamel or Scribe, or do you have somebody else in mind?
I don't want to be like Scribe and take the easy way out, so I'm going to agree with Volamel on this one. But I'm also going to agree with Volamel because he's 100% right? So, like, if you're King Kong, if you're in King Kong's shoes, right? And I don't mean the giant ape, I mean the player, of course. If you're in his shoes and you're making this much of an impact on Winston, where you wouldn't think that a Winston would be able to make it out alive, this is making me have flashbacks to last season of Contenders to a very infamous player known as Gu Shui. I'm sure you all know him. He's very, very good at Winston and always made these very clutch decisions that seem to turn the team fight just by way of creating space and disrupting the enemy team all the way through. So I think as we go through these next few maps, Lebosco, I want to see King Kong come further into his own and really show us what a main tank can do.
You know, I didn't say you had to pick the same one as either of them. I was giving you free reign. You could have said anybody from either team, but I do think that King Kong is somebody who's standing out. I think, you know, it's funny. We talked about it after map 1. We're like, well, let's see what happens when he gets to play the game. He got to finally play the game, and it seems like it's working out pretty well for Alter Ego. Of course, they didn't get the win on that map, but, you know, when you can show off what you can do as a main tank, that's always something that really can stand out in the game. If you're making space, it's so much more noticeable. I think Riven is somebody who has to be pointed out as well, though, to Panda. Not because of the fact that they've been absolutely incredibly spectacular or anything, but this is a player who's switched roles from tank to DPS and has filled that role really well. Why are they doing that? I mean, you know, you can speculate that maybe Mask is somewhere else in the world right now, and that's why they don't have Mask in, which is the player that we thought we would be seeing some more. But I think we have to give at least some kudos to Riven.
Well, that's the one thing about a flex tank role. It's a flex / tank role, right? So they're definitely versatile at a few DPS. I'm sure that they play a few within their ladder matches at home as well. I think Riven is definitely a standout. I would even furthermore in saying that
they were listed as a tank, though. They weren't listed as flex.
Yeah, I guess you're right. What I have seen out of Riven in the past, though, is a decent amount of Hog. That is actually his preferred hero that he showed us as well. So, it's a lot of those different kind of mentalities, right? We talk here in Overwatch that many players can play the same hero, but there are different play styles to it as well. That you can get that kind of sensation out of a tank player that can transition over to a DPS. And maybe we might see some more of that as we transition into our next map, Labasco. It's actually going to be Hanamura rather than Horizon. So going forward, I think this will favor the side of Alter Ego just by the ground fight that they were winning so handily. However, if BTRG played to their strengths and they let effort play that hit scan role on point A, it can be very hard to dislodge, say, a Widowmaker or a McCree from those perching spots.
One thing I wanted to ask you about BTRG, do you think that maybe the Torbjorn pick was kind of a big hindrance to them that last map? I mean, we don't know yet if they're on defense first or not. It looks like they are on defense first again here. So, and we don't have a Torb. So, so you think that maybe makes a little bit of a difference?
I don't know. I mean, like, Numbani has always been Torb's playground, right? We've
True.
always seen Torbjorn played on point A defense. Numbani, it's only when they got stalled out. Maybe a little bit of I'm sure you've heard it in your own communications at home, that this is a winnable fight. This is a very winnable fight, but it was not a winnable fight, and they had Torbjorn all the way through the middle stage. They got it stuck in those swaps that were coming through that kind of left them in a reverse snowball effect that what they had themselves on the first map. But as we come here on Hanamura, it's not going to be the Torbjorn play. It's actually going to be Riven onto this Junkrat with effort onto the Sombra. A lot of burst damage potential in between these two, but very hard to master the skill shots of the grenades, but a lot of good aerial denial. Tactically, of course.
Triple support, triple tank, though, on the other side is the only thing that they're going to have to try and deal with. Of course, Assault, try to capture the 2 points that you have to take the first one, then get the second. Starting out so far, so good. You've got the Sombra already out of this fight. Guden falling as well. So everybody quickly being eliminated for the side of Big Time Regal Gaming. They're going to have to go back to the drawing board here. Alter Ego going to quickly take this first point.
It's very interesting to me, too, because Alter Ego came out here on this Dotes with the Zenyatta and the Winston, and it's very strong, yes, but Big Time Regal Gaming, they had Riven on the Junkrat, so if they were able to play in a more ball of a format, it would have been absolutely devastating for Alter Ego to dive upon. Some different misplaced tactics will find yourself in a very unfortunate snowball. 7 minutes to the attack on point B, but King Kong's already out of the fight. Alter Ego has to leave.
Big kill by Liga. So Liga and effort building up to that EMP as well at 91%. Riven has made the switch over to this. Almost fell there. Doesn't quite do so, but Riven flexing on to another character that we haven't seen played yet.
Very niche pick at that. May can be hard to implement here in these high playing matches, but look at effort just poking around and probably going to look for a cheeky hack. Maybe if he follows him in here on this EMP and followed up with a dive, BTRG can find themselves winning another team fight off of one ultimate.
Ooh, almost got caught out, ran into the Zenyatta, so had to use the translocator to make sure they stay alive. That allows here too for this Graviton Surge to come out. Nobody has fallen through it. Transcendence committed here, and now you have Reborn, who I think had a nano boost on him as well. It was a little weird how the color came up on the screen, but he did have the nano boost, and now finally Liga is able to get a few eliminations through with the help of the rest of the team.
Defensive dive is still dive at the end of the day, and you can see Riven's ult charge getting closer and closer to that Blizzard, so they might just want Alter Ego to win a choke point fight here, Labasco, so that way the Blizzard can get full effect onto the point. It covers the entire point of point B of Hanamura. Swaps coming through for Alter Ego, though. Cookie's going to go over to this McCree. Baby Moo over to the Brigitte here. With double support ultimates and tank ultimates, could be good to set up Cookie on the high ground to just land shots. The effort, just playing with this EMP so close to the door, it could be a 5, could be a 6, could even be a 4, but it could be a Team 5 victory incoming for BTRG.
One of the standout players that Scribe was talking about needs a good EMP here with the Alta kind of being so heavily in favor. Gets a good hack, though, at the very least, and that might be enough for the restart to come here for Alter Ego. They're going to just try and regroup.
Once you lose 1 or 2, there's no way you're going to be able to win a point B attack of any assault map. So Kazi getting staggered out there on the pile of Diva, just going to take the full reset. Get a new mech in spawn because he does have the self-destruct available. Well, now
That's
Alter Ego
twice.
needs. Yeah, that is twice now, and you can tell just how, I guess, tuned BTRG are playing, just stalling out that Pilot Diva so long, just building up so many ultimates for BTRG.
It's nice for Effort because Effort hasn't had to use EMP because everything that's been happening for the team has made it pretty easy for them so far. Pushing in again, part of the team gets cut off one more time. Nothing that the Zenyatta can do here. Comes back in with Trans after the wall goes down. So now Effort maybe going to look for the opportunity and does use the EMP. Finds a ton of characters, but it's not until after the use of the sound barrier. So players falling for this side of BTRG may have waited a little bit too long. And Riven does manage to get Jan 17 at the very least, but they could start building here almost to that first 33% that they won't be able to lose. They're not quite to it yet. Reborn just using Primal Rage. This is a fight that they're just trying to stay in for as long as possible for the side of big time Regal Gaming. Their respawns should help them win this, and they haven't quite given up that tick yet, it looks like.
Not giving up without a fight. Alter Ego just trying to stall out as much as humanly possible, but a good hack to come through momentarily in Effort. Actually swapping over to the Widowmaker, making a good impact. We'll find Jan 17, who swapped over to the Soldier 76. They're trying to stall out this fight. Good flick shot on the Baby Moon upon the exit here. Now the defensive Widowmaker's fully in place. Didn't get a whole lot of value, all the ultimates that they all threw into that previous fight, Labosco. And I mean both the teams. We almost had
a weird fight.
Yeah, it was a really weird fight. A very particle effecty fight. You know, it's very hard to break those down, but at the end of the day, it was about 10 ultimates used on between both sides. They didn't really find a whole bunch of value. No takes accrued over for Alter Ego. They do have the Deadeye available walking back in. But Effort swapping back over to the Sombra, and with Riven having another Blizzard, Alter Ego really finds themselves against the wall here, and that wall being an ice wall.
Massive wall too, because it blocked off a large part of the team, and taking advantage of it is Liga, quickly eliminating the Winston out of the fight. And now you're kind of stuck if you're Alter Ego in between a rock and a hard place. They're still trying to go in here to at least try and get something out of it, but they're getting nothing. They're just feeding all charge to big time Regal Gaming.
Yeah, the May just disrupts so much, and BTRG, they didn't even have to use any ultimates, Labosco, to win that team fight yet again. Alter Ego, they find themselves on that swapping board one more time. Cookie now onto the Brigade, so Baby Moo onto the Zarya, looking to build a Graviton Surge in this next minute and a half. You can see a lot of teams doing this these days because it is a team fight victory, but nobody can deal with Effort in the back here quite yet. Maybe that's going to be Cookie, who lands the magical shield bash to deal with the Sombra this time. It's too far, and the wall catches 3 out. The Blizzard comes through.
Blizzard in a great spot too, definitely finding value and just cleaning up again his Liga. Just too many characters getting caught out by this May wall or the Blizzard or whatever else. That was a combination of the two, Panda.
Beautiful combination, actually, with the wall into the Blizzard. More than half the team of Alter Ego were already displaced, and then the Nano Boost got thrown in by Gudon, which is so much damage being pumped into the front line of Alter Ego that they just had to get the heck out of Dodge. Kazi's going to be able to come back in here with the self-destruct, but I'm looking more for King Kong. What's he going to do with this Primal Rage? The entire team of Alter Ego need to touch this point in this next fight, Labosco, if they have any hopes of getting a tick on this last point of Hanamura.
Well over 4 minutes, over 5 minutes they had at one point on the clock, already about to get to 1 minute, and it's just, again, Liga just cleaning up everything that's happening for this team and just finding elimination after elimination and another wall to block the Winston so he can't jump away, and they can maybe get, no, not enough players were with the May, but it doesn't matter, they back off, they have a ton of ults.
It's smart that Alter Ego backed out when they did as well, because they're going to be able to use their ultimates more effectively, but not if Effort has anything to say about this. He has another EMP, and he's just looking to drop back in here in his backline and just absolutely make the entire team of Alter Ego just very mad. This is what Sombra does now, replacing Tracer, just being a gnat in your backline, giving so much damage off.
Wall comes up again. We're on to Effort right now, still holding on to that. In the meantime, though, the Ana gone, so a lot of healing. EMP out, does find a lot of targets that might be enough, especially Jan 17 falling here before there's any opportunity to get any other value. And just Riven on the May, just still working so well. You don't see May often, but Hanamura, you can make it work. Self-destruct and desperation. Can't find anything. 2 players left alive as we're into overtime. Have to use the sound barrier here just to keep the couple of players left. Self-destruct can be used here and is going to be thrown on. Just keep everybody off as long as possible. But this is pretty much over here. If they're able to turn this around, this would be quite something from Alter Ego. They're not going to do that.
Even Gudon getting on the board with that final kill at the end, getting rid of Baby Moo on the hamster. One more stall is going to come through. Kazi onto the Tracer, got rid of his recall, but the EMP to come out from Effort will solidify the defense for the side of BTRG. And I got to say that May pick wasn't the most impactful, but by God, was this so disruptive. I mean, between the May walls being cut off of your tanks and being hacked in the backline from Effort, that is just so frustrating to deal with as a support tank player, DPS. I mean, it's just very frustrating to deal with as a team in general, man. You know, it's one of the things to actually see it happen in front of your eyes. It's another thing to actually withstand it in the middle of a game. And I got to give my props off to Jan17 and Wyatt just for hanging in there, giving their own as well. But as they find themselves a win condition here, Labasco, Alter Ego will be coming here on point A defense in hopes of holding them to the end of time. And I got to wonder if Cookie comes back out here on this Sombra. It was very good on Numbani. A little lackluster in the previous rounds. Alter Ego taking a lot of swaps into that final attack. Nothing cementing any ticks whatsoever onto point B. BTRG playing their game, and that is fun flexibility.
It's so fun to watch. It really is. I mean, how often do we get to see May?
Not often at all. I mean, and in very niche situations, too. I mean, we got to see the Junkrat for point A defense. It didn't really work out. I mean, you see a lot of Junkrat played here and there for sure, but this is one of our more favorite parts about this region in particular is you get to see a lot of off-meta picks being played very, very effectively and very strangely at that. The May Sombra, there's not a lot of burst damage potential in there, but there's a lot of stall and there's a lot of disruption, like I've been mentioning. Seems to be the word of the day for me personally, because that seems to be big time Regal's gaming, showing Alter Ego their kryptonite that yes, they can play this fantastic team, but when they are hugely out of sync of one another, they can't just get anything done. I mean, I think it's any team at that point.
Very meta picks though from both teams here. You have Sombras on either side. Being forced out is Ro Cookie quickly healing back up, but Baby Moo falls in the meantime, so you're going to be able to start pushing in if you're side of BTRG as they look to get onto this point. So looking for a quick first time here as well to try and snowball that into a win. Chasing down on this end, he's able to get him though. What a play from Wea. That's amazing to stay alive. But it doesn't matter because his team has fallen, and this point is going for sure to BTRG. And they might be able to snowball this. Well, they're coming back in on the recontest, though. They're going to desperately try and keep this going. Baby Moo can't find anybody with the punch on the rocket punch, and now will quickly fall. Have the Ana left alive here. Transcendence thrown in as well here from Wea. So they're just throwing everything and seeing what they can hope to get stick. It's just not working, though. BTRG taking this point.
Yeah, and that was about to be devastating here for Alter Ego. A lot of them are still coming up out of the spawn room right now, and they just killed off the Zenyatta of Alter Ego. The go time is now for BTRG to push down the snowball through the main doors of Hanamura Point B and get themselves this victory. Riven's about to have an EMP, and Liga just hanging out with the self-destruct. Could be the winning condition here, Labasco.
Effort with the, but the EMP comes out from the other side first for Ro Cookie, but Reborn able to get the Doomfist in the meantime. Riven has to use his translocator to get away. Self-destruct into the air. Doesn't find anybody, but this is sort of turning into something where BTRG, they may want to try and get out, but they actually use their Earth Shatter here onto the D.Va, but the D.Va can't be taken down. Too much healing came out, and this is definitely a loss for BTRG. They don't want to commit any more ults, but they did at least force out the Primal from King Kong.
Reborn is just dying in the most unfortunate fashions and is getting angry. You could just tell throwing out that Earth Shatter thinking he could turn the fight, but this is Assault, my man. You need all 6 of your members on that point, even if you want to see the light of day on point B, Hanamura. Alter Ego just playing the game that they know and love. Baby Moo with that swap onto the Doomfist with Cookie onto the Sombra. A little bit more of a conventional pick these days, and it's really cementing a good hold thus far. They've got the adversaries of BTRG down to 5 minutes and 30 seconds, but don't forget, it's just one tick, and BTRG is going to walk away with the map. Effort has a Graviton Surge, and the EMP is out.
Only problem is they lost their main healer in Moira, so using this EMP might not be enough. They're kind of just trying to get back to a decent health to try and even fight this. That's where the Moira hurts, being lost so early in the fight. Cookie dealing out a lot of damage to try and build up, and already has another EMP, so you have a lost fight, and you force out some ultimates from Big Time Regal Gaming. By the way, Reborn did switch to the Winston, so maybe that's why he decided, you know what, I'm going to use that ult.
Might as well at that point. In Alter Ego, again, they're really showing what BTRG did well on their previous defense. Now it's just Cookie instead of effort. It could be just BTRG looking to build off all of these ultimates here to get themselves to this capture point, but they need to be careful of Cookie. Hanging out behind, looking for the EMP. He gets spotted out, has to translocate away.
Right now, choke being fought, a lot of damage as you have the primal or the nano boost onto the Winston, who just now gets primal rage. Cookie able to take out Gudan, and Riven taken out by the Zen as well. So continuing is it with the supports here, the tanks, everybody getting involved for Alter Ego to keep this one alive on their defense, and Big Time Regal Gaming just getting back together again.
What's most interesting to me is that Alter Ego are finding key picks at the beginning of the fight, or even before a team fight even happens, whether that's the main healer for Gudan, who did swap over to the Zenyatta now, so Discord Orb is in play for both these teams, or the main tank of Reborn, who's about to have a Primal Rage. They threw the Graviton Surge out here, Labasco, so the win potential is going down as we're down to 3 minutes 45 seconds.
Still plenty of time for them to get 33% onto that point. That's all they need for the win here. Starting to push their way on. Kazi out of mech, throws the self-destruct in, able to get the Winston. So they use ults here, both sides, and it's still favoring the defense. Effort does manage to get the Zenyatta in the meantime. It doesn't really matter. Everybody else on his team is gone. They have to regroup again. Ultimate-wise, they did force a lot out, but Transcendence comes up here now, Panda. They do have Rally on the other side.
But take a look at Cookie. He's about to have another EMP, Labasco. He has been playing so methodically into the backline of BTRG, just absolutely playing the mind games. Getting that huge stagger onto Fengmian is devastating for the attack of BTRG. So now we see swaps coming through again. Effort onto the McCree to play that high ground. Didn't work out for Alter Ego on their attack. Maybe BTRG has a different poem for the tale that they want to tell. On the other hand, though, they did use that sound barrier very willingly as a Mei is back onto the field, but it's Baby Moo this time.
They don't get caught by the wall. This could be huge. You still have EMP, though, that can make the difference in the fight. They use it here at the start. King Kong able to find Gudan. So Gudan out of the fight, eliminating another one possibly here with his ult. It just doesn't really matter that he doesn't, because his team is just continuing to dominate the rest of the fight. So his Primal Rage doesn't get a lot of value. Doesn't need to. It just needs to displace people, and it did.
And Reborn threw out his Primal Rage too. That's very unfortunate. You probably use it for survivability, but you want to use that Primal Rage again, not to beat a dead horse, but when all 6 members are on the points, that way you can continue the space available for your DPS to go huge. They're trying to build up so many different ults for so many different banks. Labasco, BTRG really find themselves stuffed out. The Mei wall is actually going to catch out the Diva and might actually lose his mech and stays inside of it. Transcendence from Gudan saves it.
Huge Transcendence to keep him alive. Self-destruct coming up here for Kazi. Oh, they're able to get 2-year effort finding Cookie in the back, so this is the opening that they needed. Ooh. They do have the nano boost coming out from King Kong. He's so close to getting 2, and he does. That might be enough to swing this. Couple players on the point, though. We're still on King Kong. Can't see what's happening on the point. Self-destruct finds 1, but it's not going to be enough. Just for Kita on the point here. Stuns out the Winston, but that doesn't really matter. And now just poor Lucio caught in the worst position possible.
That's the second time that Fengmian unfortunately got staggered off here in the final moments. So that's 6 minutes of gusto. All the way down to a minute, Labasco. And BTRG looking for that 33%. We keep saying, well, they still have time, they still have time. Well, now they don't. And they're going to have to find their way onto this high ground underneath the armor from the rally of Riven to give effort the space available for a huge Deadeye. But take a look at the old economy of Alter Ego. Another EMP. This might as well be a team fight victory for Alter Ego.
EMP and Blizzard both available, but they quickly push onto this end. So no Transcendence, not that it was there anyways. Doesn't matter. EMP back out, but it's in a bad spot because everybody's able to take out Cookie quickly at the beginning here. And they are finding everybody. Now they just have the Primal Raging Winston. Great use of that, and they do get it. what a win for big time Regal Gaming there at the end. It looked like they had the ultimates on the other side for Alter Ego, but that ends up not happening, Panda, and they end up losing this. And that should be the loss for them as well, because it's 2-0. And with that tie, this ends up being a win for big time Regal Gaming. We still have to play our fourth map, but there's no way for Alter Ego to come back.
But they were definitely looking good. Nevertheless, Labasco on that defense with their attack on the point A, I definitely think that Alter Ego, they have a lot of takeaways from this series. But thus far, coming off of Hanamura, the one thing that big time Regal Gaming did well was in that final moment, that they all actually got together under the aura of their Lucio player and sped boost right on to the enemy Zenyatta, taking that hard flank, but as an entire team, where you would think that the McCree would be setting up on high ground, really threw the entire side of Alter Ego for a loop, and then they couldn't catch up in time because they had nobody on the point. It's just so oppressive when you have three supports like that, setting up a McCree onto the point. You can't even get to him because you're just being spaced out.
I think it was, you pointed out how them going so quickly was sort of what ends up helping them at the end there. And of course, having all that healing. But I think for Alter Ego, if they're a little bit quicker using their ultimates, they could probably have won that fight. And, maybe we're talking about another draw and a chance of going to a fifth map if they can win on our final one. So I think that Alter Ego, this is definitely a team we have to pay attention to, just with the way that they're handling a team that a lot of people picked to maybe win this group.
Yeah, we talked about in the previous matchup, the previous casters, analysts on the desk as well, that it could just be the contenders jitters, the first day jitters. And we see a lot of teams running themselves into this, but not without a strong backbone into these higher octane teams, such as BTRG, are getting pushed to the limits. Yeah, they got a draw. Yes, they lost the series, but I still have high hopes for Alter Ego going forward.
Definitely do. We have one more map that we get to see them here, at least for today. But before we do that, we'll take a quick timeout and then come back with our fourth and final map.
For you, for you, for you. I think I'm going crazy and a little confounded, 'cause I'm helpless, I can't wait to be drowned by your love, baby. You're a stranger, I get on the unbalanced, oh, oh, oh. Just a little damage, but with you, I don't wanna be here. I felt like running through the pouring rain. I felt like letting go of my mind. I felt it coming with no ground to brace. I think I just might be mad for you, drowning by the fact that I don't need a reason to be mad for you. I'm losing my head and I'm mad for you. For you, for you, for you.
I can see you clearly again, and I'm not giving up, 'cause I
back here on Broadcast.gg. Labasco and Panda here with you, getting ready for map number 4, where we're going to definitely have a winner, not have it be close, because Escort can only have a winner, Panda. And we don't know where we're going just yet, but either way, I mean, we know that it's a big time Regal Gaming win for the series, but Alter Ego getting a win on this 4th map would be a nice feather in the cap.
They're getting a motivation. It's a heart win, you know. It may not be on the scoreboard at the end of the day, but they're giving BTRG one of the their core members anyway, one of the top finalists out of their group stages last season at Contenders. And that's got to be feeling pretty good if you're Alter Ego just walking into your first Contenders Labasco. They had a lot of good takeaways there, whether it was their tank player of King Kong really opening up as much space as possible, the flexibility coming through on the multitude of their DPS. We saw all of them are very willing to play Brigitte, just who's going to be able to impact it more. But BTRG, you can see their time spent together on their previous teams and their Contenders experience just might be too strong for all of the egos that Alter Ego are throwing.
I mean, the one thing, though, for Alter Ego, they do have some players with experience, though, too. You know, Jan17 at one time played for LGD. I know that I've seen the name Baby Moo before. I can't, the team from last year or last season, I keep wanting to say last year, but last season is escaping me. But there's some players who have some Contenders experience mixed in with a lot of players from Open Division. So there's kind of a good mix here on the side of Alter Ego. But big time Regal Gaming, like, you know, how did they take this win? Sure, it's a win, but it's not the easiest of wins that maybe they thought after map 1.
I mean, they did have that full 5 minutes just absolutely vaporized from their time bank onto point B, attack into a up-and-coming team like Alter Ego. That's not necessarily where you want to be if you're a defining Contenders team like BTRG. But they were able to do it nevertheless, Labasco. And I think that was just by them finally realizing that they need to stick true to their guns. And sometimes you can try to go for those flashy picks. Sometimes you can try to go for those flashy plays. But again, just utilizing your Lucio speed boost from Feng Myun to speed the dive tanks of all things onto the Discord or target that Gudan was just leaving to be pounced on. It's just the play that you need to see. Even when you have a Somber in play, or when you have Riven playing on that Doomfist like we saw a few maps ago, it's very pivotal. You need to be able to utilize the entire kit of your support players to be enabled as a DPS player. You can't always get those kills without your ultimates. You can't always land those lucky frags with your punches as Doomfist. Sometimes the Discord orb onto the tank is actually the difference maker, and I can see that coming through for BTRG. They're protecting the supports well. They're realizing their mistakes that need to be made. Sometimes a little bit too late, but they're winning nevertheless.
They are, and going to try something a little different is Alter Ego. They're bringing in Finley, who's coming in for Baby Moo. We actually have another sub coming in as well. We're going to have X Black come in as well for Row Cookie. So 2 different changes here for Alter Ego. Maybe they just want to get a little different look here in this 4th and final map. It's, you know, obviously you want to win it, but you also kind of want to see what you have maybe from some of your other players, Panda. So what do you think of these switches?
Could be a multitude of things. I mean, what's very popular in this current state of Overwatch is Dotes. For those at home, yes, it is a rendition of Goats, but instead of Reinhardt, it's Winston. Just to gain a certain speed onto the enemy backline and really just leave your supports less vulnerable by way of sheer carnage. As the next map, actually, so you know, if at home, ladies and gentlemen, is Route 66. But I think bringing in a flex player and a DPS player in X Black and Fen Lee, it could be good to throw big time Regal Gaming off ever so slightly. Yes, that could help out, but Labasco, it might not be that at the end of the day, because as we have BTRG setting up on their tried and true, I actually get to see a little bit more Genji play to come out from Riven.
Riven's on that, as we are actually already in the game here. As you can see, on the attack right now is the side of Alter Ego, and it's not starting off the best way here. Effort just continuing to just spray with that submachine gun into the back line with that Uzi, and just cleaning up the beginnings of this fight. Hack just come out onto Riven. He's at his team though, so it's okay right now, and he was able to take out King Kong in the meantime. So Alter Ego back to the drawing board here. We're seeing Genjis on both sides, and we're seeing Sombras. I think the mute bug got you again, Panda.
Yeah, I'm just kind of taken away by this mirror composition coming out from Alter Ego. Fenley might be a little bit more comfortable playing this Genji, but as they're coming out on their attack, it's to no avail. They've already had so much time exhausted from them, and no ultimates have been drawn out from Big Time Regal Gaming besides the Nano Boost. Gudan did go down, so this might be the go time for Alter Ego, but they have no ultimates to play around with themselves.
They're just having players end up going off the edge anyways, too. They're off tank, and KZ just has to just try and group with the rest of the team. So Kazi kind of in a bad position there, but now they have a couple of ultimates coming up too that even though you have ults on the other side, EMP hits everybody, it doesn't matter what ults they have.
Yeah, EMP shut down the ultimates of any other team member that you see in front of your face. Big EMP, but not enough follow-up. Didn't actually get Riven, so he still pulled out the Dragon Blade and efforts there for the follow-up Labasco. So now the entire team of Alter Ego are just being fumbled around.
And Feng Nian just using the boop there to keep the Winston from jumping on and killing him as well. So everybody stays alive except for the Genji who got killed after the blade came out. So the elimination there, but you're able to regroup. You still have so far for the cart to go for the side of Alter Ego.
And they're down to a minute 30. So only using the Dragon Blade in the previous fight, they still have a rack full of ultimates to play with. The EMP coming out from Effort could be a different and a very devastating play here for Alter Ego to deal with as it's already out.
Completely stops any ultimates that Alter Ego had from even having a chance to come out, and they don't have to use any for Big Time Regal Gaming. So still a bunch of ultimates for BTRG, but there is the all-important Dragon Blade that's up for Alter Ego.
If you land a good EMP, you don't need any other ultimates. I feel like that is so underutilized. Every other team throws a Dragon Blade or a Nano Boost onto a Winston. A good EMP can win you a team fight. Alter Ego now has a Dragon Blade with a Nano Boost that can be used, but they're being displaced because Reborn just threw out a Primal Rage.
Had to use it to get away. He's able to displace some characters as he goes along. They're finally able to get onto the cart for Alter Ego. Sombra's still in the back line, putting in the work, though, by Effort. Jan 17 just keeping everybody healed up as much as possible. Use the blade here with the Nano Boost onto Riven. He can't get the Brigitte down quite. He gets a little bit of help from his D.Va to finish off that elimination. Can't find a third target, but it doesn't matter because his blade did enough to force back everybody else. They did have the sound barrier come up a little bit late there, unfortunately, that they couldn't use.
Alter Ego were able to exhaust both the support elements out of BTRG. So with 5 seconds left, who's going to be able to get back to the point? Fenley's going to swap over to the Doomfist in hopes that he makes it there in time. The jump is a little bit short, but Kazi makes it there in time.
Effort, though, gets quickly deleted by the Brigitte in X Black. So that could be the start that could get this home over because you don't have that EMP that was so close to being available for this fight. So you now can use your sound barrier when you need to. You don't have to do it too preemptively is the nice thing. Fenley diving onto this back line, trying to get the Doomfist, trying to get the Winston out of the fight. Effort 95%. This EMP could be the difference maker here. Self-destruct coming out from Kazi's able to find one, so you have no more Genji in the fight as the last few continue to fall, and they will push this card past this first point at the very least.
King Kong got the best dive he could have possibly have hoped for there onto Gudan, who was just about to get the Nano Boost for Big Time Regal Gaming, and they have to give up the point because of it. Alter Ego now setting themselves up on to a good snowball chance. It's very possible here with the composition that they have. Solo DPS Doomfist is no joke if he goes unchecked. About to have a meteor strike as well to his name, but King Kong with the Primal Rage has been good this series thus far, but the EMP from Effort comes through and it catches 3.
Quickly diving in on right as that EMP is coming out is Reborn, so great follow-up from the tanks of the side of Big Time Regal Gaming to make this EMP not need any other ultimates to win the fight. And guess what? That allows for 2 more ultimates to come up in the meantime, and already to 30% is Effort.
Effort is getting so much free damage off into the back line of Alter Ego, especially when X Black is down. That is so much damage that can go unchecked out of Big Time Regal Gaming. Look, Primal Rage is being used from King Kong just to try to find space to be Swords Labasco, but a hack to come through to stop him in his tracks.
still swinging his arms, even though he got hacked. Hack comes off of him. Now Primal Rage onto the Winston with the nano boost quickly up into the air as Reborn looking to stay alive here. Dives back in, changes back. Out comes the Tesla Cannon. Effort, who we switch on to here, who just had recall to make sure they stayed alive. And now they quickly take out the trying to or looked like it was the D.Va trying to remech there. Either way, they're continuing to build ults with 50 seconds left to go for Alter Ego.
And they're catching them in the staggering too. I mean, finding X-Black and now the mech of Kazi. Oh, this is just so devastating. If you didn't know, ladies and gentlemen at home, Pilot D.Va actually has a passive that when you are Pilot D.Va, you are doomed to be staggered for a long time. Big Time Regal Gaming taking full advantage of that. But they're trying to find themselves a room back into this fight. A pick onto Feng Mian might actually do that for them, but the EMP from Effort goes completely unmitigated.
6v5 doesn't matter if you have EMP on your side, and that's the case here for the side of BTRG. Still cleaning up a couple of, now they have to use the nano boost, but that's okay. Oh, they do force out the sound barrier here, but that just causes everybody to back up. They just needed to stay alive. They knew that if they lost those players, they were done. So now they regroup, get everybody back in for this last fight. Have a bunch of ultimates to work with. Oh, good use of the hack. Not able to do anything now is Fenley. Fenley just kind of waiting for the hack to end. Now tries to right click in. Self-destruct does manage to get the D.Va mech at the very least. But the problem is Alter Ego finally starting to get everything going their way to maybe get this cart rolling again. Jan 17 finds the baby D.Va, and now the cart still has a long way to go. So Big Time Regal Gaming is still gonna get another fight.
They gain traction on the payload right at the capture point doors, Labasco. So now with Big Time Regal Gaming, they can recontest this point with Liga and this self-destruct that BTRG have. Effort's about to have another EMP. He has won team fights by himself with that ultimate. This map itself, with the sound barrier to back up from Feng Mian, surely it could be a last-minute hold here for BTRG, but Fenley looks to make the difference maker. He has the Meteor Strike available. Big sleep dart on the Effort.
Effort not able to get any hacks off afterwards because of that, but Fenley still has to find value on the Doomfist because Feng Mian and Effort still getting kills even with that hack. The drop in does manage to get Riven, so Meteor Strike doing a little bit, but it looks like it might not be enough. Overnight Meter almost just went off. Self-destruct on the cart allows them to move it a little bit further, but there's so many players left alive for Big Time Regal Gaming. Once they clear these last two off, they should be able to get here, unless this Doom Kids can have a heroic effort, and that won't be the case. Just the D.Va now, who's getting copped out of Mac, left on the cart, so staggering out, not going to matter. They don't get to that second set of doors, but Panda, win condition here for the side of Big Time Regal Gaming, but Alter Ego, they kept this going a lot longer than it looked like they were going to be able to get it to go.
But it's very scary nevertheless. We have two subs coming in for Alter Ego, and they were not really winning those skirmishes convincingly. And those skirmishes being those little itty-bitty team fights that we saw across the board. We may saw a full team fight here and there on Route 66 Labasco, but it was sloppy going across the board there. And very unfortunate to see the way that Reborn got desynced away from Liga, but some good heroics coming through from Riven and Effort were able to stabilize BTRG into that last minute hold that I was talking about. They did that in a previous map where they finally got all of their stuff together and were able to fully go through with a full-on plan and capture a point and win a team fight. And we got to see that in that final moment one more time, that if they do that all the time, it would be a really scary team. But Alter Ego, on the other hand, I really like Fenley playing this, the Doomfist. I really like X-Black coming through here, on the other hand, with the Brigitte, really enabling his tanks to do a lot of good work for Alter Ego. But here's the catch. When you play a Doomfist solely, you lack so much damage. It's an if potential damage, Labasco, that if he lands a punch onto a tank, if he lands the uppercut and the shot combo with a melee, it can 100% a target. But those are just all ifs. So now with X-Black coming out here on the Sombra, could be Alter Ego's hope to hold BTRG on point A. They need to hold them for a long time, stall out as much time as possible. Even if BTRG capture a second point here, it could be a winnable game for Alter Ego. Map points do matter, folks.
Long sight lines for Effort, though, is the one thing on this Widowmaker. So even if you have a Doomfist who starts to come charging in, at right click hold, and then left click might be enough to make the elimination happen, and that could open the floodgates here for big time Regal Gaming. Regardless, they're getting some free space here at the start of this one. You know, at this point, there was already a contest happening onto the cart. The dive comes in here. Black does manage to find Feng Mian in the back, but Gudan is able to get X-Black out here. So kind of a little bit of an even trade on either side. You're kind of just going to wait for both teams to get those players back because they are important. But that does allow for effort to get in position here, Panda.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of pressure at that because X-Black got the trade-off. It's not really worth it because now who's going to put the pressure onto effort? You could try to dive him if you're King Kong, and then you're just going to get met by a handful of support ults, and that's just effort just going buck wild crazy on your screen.
Exactly. He's still able to get value out of what he does. King Kong does manage to get Riven on the Genji, gets booped into the air. Now jumping back on. He's so low in this fight, does get healed up using their nano boost here. Slipped onto him though, so that's a huge sleep to at least keep this going for a little bit longer for the side of Alter Egos. They use their nano boost, and onto the cart is King Kong, stalling out for as long as possible, has his primal rage that he can use here to allow for the respawns to get back quicker, but effort able to get the Doomfist, and then the sleep comes onto the primal raging Winston. So now they can just kind of wait for that one to stall out here, allow for Riven's blade to come in, and he slices away and gets his first elimination. Feng Mian able to get the baby diva as well, and King Kong kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place here, just dealing with his Tesla cannon as much as he can. Not going to be enough. This is going to be a fairly good and quick take for big time Regal Gaming. It wasn't fast, but it was a productive one, and it was methodical.
Very methodical indeed. Effort now using this Sombra very effectively. Has to be careful because X-Black held on to their EMP, and Fenley still has the Meteor Strike available. They won't have support ultimates to help themselves out, but Alter Ego, they need to stop this payload sooner rather than later. Maybe halfway, so that way they have the spawn room advantage. But take a look at big time Regal's ult economy, Labasco. They're about to have both support ultimates, and they have both tank ultimates. EMP comes through to X-Black as he's just chasing down the Ana.
Finally gets a little bit of help from King Kong to chase that elimination down, have the use of the Meteor Strike here. So they're committing a lot into this to try and get these eliminations, and Hack comes out onto the Doomfist, and now they're going to use Sound Barrier to push forward for big time Regal Gaming. So looked like their ultimates were going to be good for Alter Ego, and they had to commit more on top of the EMP, and it's not paying off for them. And guess what? Effort almost has his EMP now.
League of threw out the self-destruct there, and there was nobody near it, but it's okay because they still have card pressure, and Riven is actually gonna be able to have this Dragon Blade available. If Effort gets this EMP quick enough, they can actually combo this ultimate. But Gudan just hanging out in the back line, looking to give that nano boost over to Riven, and that could be a team fight victory because Alter Ego have no defense ultimates.
Not just a team fight victory, but that could be a map victory as well. Quickly eliminating the Diva. Looking now for the Winston and King Kong, who had to use Primal Rage. Finds himself an Ana in the meantime. Now trying to get back with his team. Continues to swing away. Juices his Tesla cannon. Forces away the Lucio at the very least. Effort with the EMP. Might decide to hold on to it here for a later fight, depending on whether or not they think they can win this one and win this map outright. But they have 2 minutes and 37 seconds left. And with X-Black just going crazy here, they'll probably hold on to it and wait for it here and make this try and make this last fight territory because of how close the card is.
Yeah, and defensive spawn room is in full advantage here for Alter Ego. With 2 minutes left, this could be their map win victory if we're seeing it happen and unfold before our very eyes. BTRG, they're gonna go ahead and hold on to this EMP for the next fight. It's going to be Alter Ego hoping to hide their Zenyatta so that way the Transcendence can be used effectively while everyone doesn't have abilities to play around with. X-Black gets a little bit too big for his britches and gets caught out.
The Ana forced away as well, so much healing has to be lost for the moment. King Kong gets hacked too. Does manage to get a nano boost onto him to stay alive in this fight. Self-destruct towards the back line. It does find one, and then the Meteor Strike gets another. So now it's big time Regal Gaming having to just regroup here. They used some ultimates that didn't end up really netting them anything, but they have the most important ultimate. They have the EMP, but now X-Black, close to having his EMP, could swing this one back into the favor of Alter Ego.
Yeah, and as they set themselves up once more for the attack, BTRG look to finalize this series with a W, and Effort's EMP could be the key to victory. Riven getting out caught again. And the EMP got thrown out and got completely nullified. But Gudon's here for the cleanup.
And Reborn onto the back line, just pushing away any supports that are there. So the cart starting to go towards that golden box to get them the win. 55 seconds left too, so even if they have one more fight with this EMP, it might not matter because they should have enough time, but they're not making that EMP even count for anything. It's just a Winston here. Oh, the hack doesn't get off in time, but it does at least keep him on his feet while he's in his primal rage. So now they have that health pool that they have to deal with to try and win this, but it's a bunch of staggered players coming out for the side of Alter Ego. Desperation time for them. Right click in by Riven helps take out the Brigitte, and now you have the Hammond in here as well. Just all the stall Texas coming out on the side for Alter Ego.
And just the Desperation Doofus playing in full effect. Riven coming through and playing the fighting game that he wanted to is going to go ahead and solidify BTRG's map victory. It wasn't flawless, but it was still 3-0.
So 3-0 win for them, Panda. Really quickly here, just talk about Alter Ego, because even though it's a 3-0, it looks a little bit more like a bigger loss than what it was for them.
I mean, I think that Alter Ego really came into their own. Those swaps were definitely not the most impactful swaps that I've seen teams pull out here on Contenders, but they were still able to do a decent amount of work. Fenley on his Doomfist really disrupted the entire team of BTRG, but it wasn't enough. Gudon was still able to get a lot of good volleys off. His Discord orbs were still properly placed, and the entire team of BTRG were still able to pounce on it. So I just think that it was just the veteranship of BTRG just playing together for such a long time. Their synergy, if you will, when they wanted to hit the gas button properly is when we got to see them win.
Yeah, and they were still impressive in this win with some of the things that they were able to deal with. But the good thing is here is it's only game number 1 for both of these teams. So 1-0 moves big time Regal Gaming. Alter Ego moves to 0-1. To elaborate on this more though, we have our great desk, Geo, Volumel, and of course Scribe. Go ahead, take it away, break it down.
Guys, what an exciting series this one had been. So many different things to talk about, and a lot of what came up was things to do with various DPS players. For example, Riven on May on BTRG's defense on Hanamura. Can we talk about this a bit? Because he was very disruptive.
Yeah, of course, and that's the strength of May, right? Like you have a wall that can separate things. That's almost a broken ability in and of itself, right? Adding an obstacle right into a map, that's ridiculous. And being able to separate tank composition, which rely on the synergy and being able to play together, that's huge.
And when you kind of look at their history, for example, they come from last season and even season 1, Moss 7 Club. We saw them kind of exclusively run May on maps like Kings Row. So it's something that you probably could have scouted. So it's, I don't think that Alter Ego should have been caught too off guard by this. I think, Hanamura B is still like a fairly okay May map. If you're going to play it, that's one of the maps that you could definitely see it on. So it was kind of rough for me when they consistently just ran up the top right side and just tried to hopefully find a random push through this wall. And on the flip side of that, BTRG kind of did the same thing, to be fair. AE ended up running the May against them as well, but they found the speed boost through after kind of, playing this weird chicken game where they would boost forward and kind of bait out the wall. So they were kind of conditioning them in a sense. They got the push through and they capped it, but it's always fun to see. And, BTRG is definitely living up to their namesake from Moss 7 Club and playing some pretty wacky stuff.
Well, in the halftime, we spoke quite a bit about how Alter Ego, they were looking pretty good on their attack on Numbani. They looked very put together. But what was the difference between that and the struggle that we saw on Route 66?
I think it was just the compositional switches that were made. I mean, Fenley coming into the lineup was kind of a big switch in terms of the compositions that were available to them. Charter Cookie, I think, was able to create a lot of room with Sombra, but the big issue here is when you're stuck on Genji Doomfist into compositions like Sombra, Frigate, like you kind of struggle a lot in terms of developing that space, right? Getting able to get into the backline without getting hacked. And you saw consistently really strong hacks from Effort, really controlling that Doomfist together. So I think it was just a matter of a compositional switch. Maybe Alter Ego recognizes, hey, there's no way we could win this, but at the same time, this is a good time for us to practice, right? See exactly how far we can push Genji and how far we can push Doomfist. And that's not to say Genji isn't a good hero on first point. Route 66. We're talking about like in our own, I guess, analyst and caster chat, we were talking about how strong it is in open space, right? And being able to develop nano blades and going in and be able to wipe the points on point A and push and snowball that lead into point B.
If you're looking for a composition that has, the mobility to kind of just traverse the map as quickly as possible, this Sombra Doomfist, Genji Doomfist, Genji Sombra, kind of all that whole shell does it very well. And Route's a map that is particularly long and in their specific points. So it did make sense, but there are just some hero choices that I think both teams specifically probably could have swapped to. We saw BTRG come in, bring in the kind of CC bot that is Brigitte, and it was difficult because Alter Ego didn't seem to have an answer to Scribe's point. It felt like Fenley was kind of just shoehorned into playing this hero. Maybe it's his bread and butter, his very comfort picks, but yeah, I think it was the substitutions that kind of were a little bit questionable. It felt like maybe China has like a very different way of looking at Root, and it's a little bit different. Hopefully they can kind of take it and learn from it and break it down. But yeah, the swap to Brig kind of put a halt to him.
You both called up Effort and King Kong in halftime as the most impressive players in this series. By the end of the series, would you still agree with yourselves?
I would. Yeah, I think it's a pretty fair evaluation. I mean, looking at King Kong's ability to play Winston and just knowing the right openings to get to on Hanamura kind of shows exactly his strength as a very aggressive tank, right? I think King Kong is almost the quintessential Chinese Winston, right? Very aggressive play, very willing to get in your face, do a lot of damage, but at the same time, very good at surviving and pushing the envelope there. So I think he definitely was a stand-up player on Alter Ego, and I can't wait to see what he does later in the season.
And when it comes to BTRG Effort, what can't this kid? This whole team just seems to be these crazy flex players, whether it's, Riven on, main tank or off tank or flex DPS or hit scan. Like, he plays everything. Effort's like this crazy hit scan talent. His rotations, very kind of high in-game IQ player where he's making these crazy rotates, always keeping in mind where his team is, where the enemy team is, and creating these crossfires. Couple that with an amazing backline that I think I'll be honest, I completely kind of glossed over from last season. I think they've kind of come into their own. So, so far so good for BTRG. I think they're on course to have a great season.
Well, I think it'll be very interesting to see the evolution of both these teams. BTRG coming from the legacy of Moss 7 Club, and AE, brand new team, kind of finding their way in the world. But for now, we are going to throw to a quick break before we head into our third match of the day.